anything, but we can certainly start. Yes. We only have 5 here.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
No, I thought we had a forum.
I wish we did.
Let the staff be.
People can't get here on time.
So there was a little problem on the
Trudy will
four.
blame the number 6, I know.
No, there was a little problem on the 4 and 5. There was nothing wrong with
Yes,
the
the
6.
customer.
That's what they,
It's a customer and then a stalled train.
they what?
And a stalled train and a sick customer.
Stall train, because we crawled in and the guy was honking his horn like there was something on the track or on the way down. You know?
Because my train came in Atlantic on the local, then they make an announcement saying, ladies and gentlemen, the next stop on this train will be Bowling Green. Yeah, a lot of train backup.
Oh, yeah.
It went nonstop from Atlantic to Bowling Green?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
That's as
And
good
the
as
3
any.
train did the same thing. And they had a 3 train doing the same thing. It was like a racing to Borough Hall. Who's gonna win?
Which side was it on?
Manhattan.
Manhattan?
I was in Brooklyn.
I know, but was it in the Manhattan?
Huh?
Where was the sick passenger?
Bowling Green.
All right, folks, we're going to begin. We have a lot to talk about. Welcome to the October meeting of the Transit Riders Council. We will approve the minutes and agenda when our next member arrives. So welcome. As I said, for those that don't know, this is, again, Lisa Daglian, our new PCAC Executive Director. Lisa has jumped into everything and is very actively engaged in all aspects of the organization. She's been at board meetings, she's been at committee meetings, she's been at transit center meetings. I mean, she's everywhere. She's like the Visa card.
Not accepted everywhere
No,
necessarily.
not accepted everywhere, but everywhere. So I, along with PCAC staff, attended the Women's Transportation Seminar Gala on October 10th, right over there at Battery Gardens, honoring Metro North President Kathy Rinaldi for her leadership and policy expertise. And it was such a beautiful evening. It was warm. It was like 78. It is, it is a totally different season now than it was that beautiful evening. But it was great. Sheila attended transportation camp with or without counselors. Okay. On October 13th, with transportation professionals and nerds from different agencies all over the region. We're calling people nerds now? Well, all right. I see. Andy Byford and Sarah Meyer presented on Fast Forward, but stumbled on how the plan would address racial equity. Sheila attended workshops on working with GTFS data, performance dashboards, and hacking agency culture. You learned how to hack at this thing? That's not good.
The good kind of hack.
The good kind of hack? Okay. Sheila, Chris, and Edith, along with Long Island Railroad Commuter Council Vice Chair and MTA Board Member Ira Greenberg, attended the opening of the newly modernized Flushing Main Street Long Island Railroad Station on October 18th. It is now accessible and now visible to people as you're walking down Main Street. Elected officials, including U.S. Representative Grace Meng, Borough President Melinda Katz, former Queensborough President Claire Schulman, Senator, remember Claire? Senator Toby Stavisky, Assemblymember Ron Kim, and Councilmember Peter Koo thanked the Long Island Railroad and President Eng for the collaboration on the project. It provides riders with more accessible trip options and more comfortable and safe station design. And of course, if you want to do a timing sort of thing, it is a much faster ride on the Long Island Railroad from Flushing to Manhattan on the LIRR than it is on the number 7 line. Much faster, more expensive, but faster. Sheila and Bradley attended 2 of the workshops on the Bronx bus network design. They sat in on some interesting discussions in which riders gave insightful feedback on how to improve bus service in the borough. Unfortunately, despite giving advance notice to our Bronx representative Marisol, neither she nor anyone from her office was able to attend any of these workshops. Hopefully they had somebody there that would give them some feedback on what riders are saying. Lisa and Sheila attended a transit center event earlier this week that focused on whether it was time for mayoral control of the transit system. It's like deja vu all over again, and it's a conversation that I'm sure will continue as the next mayoral election approaches. And considering this mayor doesn't want to give any money to MTA, I wonder what mayoral control would mean. Lisa presented testimony at yesterday's board meeting on implementing recommendations proposed by working groups on procurement and capital construction processes. You may recall there were 2 working group presentations at the June board meeting on this topic and earlier testimony from Ellen in July. Ellen attended the Fast Forward presentation in Harlem, which she spoke about at the Transit Committee meeting earlier this week. At the committee meeting, she also made note of the 60 Minutes piece that ran. Has everybody seen that by now? Yes. That ran last Sunday on the Fast Forward plan and Andy Byford and his team's efforts to turn the system around. It was a great piece. It's available online if you haven't seen it, and you really should see it. Bradley just returned from Railvolution in Pittsburgh. Railvolution is a national conference attended by various transit agencies, consultants, and transit enthusiasts. The S is missing there, but that's okay. It's a possibility. It was not a nerd-free zone. There was a wealth of information at the conference, which included transit funding, performance metrics, transit-oriented development, wayfinding, BRT, infrastructure, and the list goes on. It's odd that they would discuss BRT at Railvolution because that's buses, not trains.
Big, and especially because Pittsburgh and their east and west busways, it was they did a lot of tours of the busways and everything, so it was a very well-attended event, and there was a big emphasis on BRT as well.
BRT has been a hot topic in LA, Albuquerque, and Pittsburgh, both places where they have opted for some BRT, and folks are wondering if it's easily converted to rail because once you build up the ridership, rail is a better way of moving people around, obviously, and people like it better. Albuquerque is wrestling with that. I know that from the run meetings I've been to. Folks did not want, they wanted the real thing. They didn't want the BRT, but, you know, it's a start.
Yeah, there was plenty of conversations about Albuquerque and the problems they've had with their BRT and their vehicle classes and everything, so it came up plenty of times.
I'm sure it did. Okay. There were many takeaways from the conference that will be useful to the council. I'm sure Bradley will be filling us in as it becomes applicable. Ellen will give us an update on the 100 Days and Nights report during the new business portion of today's agenda. Regarding that project, you may remember the survey you all conducted from April to early June in 2017. I remember Bert and I up in the Bronx. Yes, indeed. From that study, we established choosing a route from those results that would be meaningful with an important premise to build our analysis around. Luckily for us, Bradley, his daily commute from the Broadway NW station to Bowling Green did just that and allowed for this really wonderful and somewhat troubling, you'll hear a little bit later, report. So we will hear a little bit more about the report later. We are also very pleased to be joined today by Rochelle Glazer, who is the Chief Officer for Stations for the new Group Station Manager Program. You may have heard that Andy Byford was once a group station manager for the London Underground. He knows the program really well, and that's why he thought it important to have it begin here so that every manager is in charge of approximately, but not exactly, 25 stations, every aspect of what happens in those stations: litter, signage, lighting, conditions on the platform, homeless, bathroom conditions, everything. And we will hear a lot more from Rochelle about that. She'll be joining us about 1 o'clock today. Given that she is relatively new and this is her first appearance before our council, we're going to hold questions until the end of her presentation. I think everyone has been given paper and pencil in case you don't remember your questions and you're afraid that a topic is going to go away and you won't remember it. So please write down your questions. We would like Rochelle to be able to get through her presentation.
And Sheila has the pencils and paper if you need something.
Great.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, our next meeting will be on November 15th, which I guess is a week early, a week prior to Thanksgiving? The Thursday prior to, yeah,
So
okay.
Just the board meeting and the committee meetings.
Right. So I shouldn't mention Okay. All right, let me, well, now that we have a quorum, can we get approval of today's agenda? Great. Any minutes, corrections, additions to the minutes you received? If not, can we have an approval of those?
Make a motion to approve.
Very formal, but thank you. Okay, let me go into the board report, because that's very interesting stuff. So you may have heard in about the last 2 weeks, Controller Stringer has come out with he held a press conference at the Murray Hill Long Island Railroad Station in Queens, and came out with what he thought, I guess, was an idea for lower fares on the commuter rails within the boroughs, the 4 boroughs that have commuter rail. And, you know, he sounded like us, except he didn't acknowledge us per se. Some of the elected officials did mention Freedom Ticket and the current trial Atlantic Ticket, which is in place between Southeast Queens and Atlantic Terminal. But the controller also suggested that these, and while applying it to the Metro North stations in the Bronx, thought that these should be at the subway fare, not at the fare that we have suggested. Aside from the fact that that would mean a much, much higher deficit. There has been no indication that the City of New York would be willing to fund any such fare break, which would be one of the things that you could use as ammunition, as if a Nassau County or a Westchester County resident said, well, why aren't we getting this kind of thing? We have not heard that the city would subsidize this fare. Also, we believe that the approximate fare of the express bus with free transfers to the subways and buses is more appropriate in that the commuter rails are a premium service as an express bus. They are not a transit level of service yet. And, you know, we just thought that that was a little odd that the controller would be asking for that without mentioning any way of paying for that subsidy, I might add. But we were on camera, and I said, you know, we welcome any elected officials' recognition that this wonderful rail infrastructure we have running through the boroughs is not serving many of the neighborhoods that it rides through, and that it is pricing itself out of the reach of many of our city residents. And so the more people that are looking to lower the fares on commuter rail within the boroughs, the better, as far as I'm concerned. Then, I'm sure you've heard in the last few days about Andy Byford's comments on the homeless in the system. The reason this has come about now, needless to say, is it's much chillier out and the homeless are starting to come into the system. Andy was very clear, and I was sitting as far from him as I am from Bradley, when he made these statements. It's fine if somebody needs to come in and get warm. He has no problem with that. It's if they start to foul up the station, if they sprawl across seats, if they urinate or defecate, or if they scream antisocial comments at people, that is not fine. He does have the obvious, you know, almost 6 million daily riders that he has to contend with, not to mention, as you'll hear from Rochelle when she's here, the conditions of our stations and what a station manager and whoever's in charge of a station has to deal with. Lot was made of Andy's comments. He also said that he would be, if people were doing the things that he said were not acceptable, he would have the transit police refer them to the appropriate social service agencies and or have the Bowery outreach folks who come in and service the needs and refer the homeless to places, that shelters and wherever, for food and what have you, that they would be invited into the system as well. This was taken to mean that he is anti-homeless, that he would have them all arrested. And so he took pains at yesterday's full board meeting and Chairman Loda as well, to straighten out what apparently the Post's transit reporter took some of his words and ran a little bit off the reservation with them. Then the editorial board sort of backed up what he said. In today's Post editorial, which Bill just showed me, they're sort of backing down because it looks like they're not sticking up for their reporter and sort of hitting Andy again. I was watching Andy. Andy was very careful yesterday. He produced a transcript of the speech he made. So there was just, you can't debate the transcript. He said what he said. He didn't say we're going to have the homeless arrested. He did say, if somebody comes in to warm up, we totally understand it, but we can't have them fouling up a station or screaming antisocial things or sprawling across a seat. I don't know if you have frequently in the last year used the Rector Street #1 station, but there was a person there who wasn't fouling up anything. They were totally respectful, but they had 25 huge bags totally taking up one of the benches. So, you know, obviously they will use their judgment on this, but if you see more comments about the homeless policy, it is not to have everybody arrested. It is to use judgment and try to be compassionate to folks that don't have a home. We knew this was coming, but at the Transit Committee meeting this month, they codified that during the L train shutdown, there will be longer and additional G trains, J's, M's, Z's, and E trains in service. There will be, you know, all told, there will be over 1,000 additional trips between these various trains. In addition, because of the terminal situation at Church Avenue and McDonald, where the F and the G, well, where the G terminates, some of the new G's that are added will actually go as far south as 18th Avenue and then turn back northward. In addition, some G's will only operate between Court Square and Bedford Nostrand and turn around there too. But there will be lots of additional G's, J's, M's, Z's, and E's. And the additional M service nights, and it looks like weekends if you look at some of the schedules, will be going to 96th and 2nd. They will not be going to Queens. On the one downside is that there will be a couple of R runs cut to accommodate additional M service along Queens Boulevard on weekdays. But it looks like you know, this was something that had to be approved due to the time of the picks. They will be going into effect in April. I asked the question, it will just be for the 15 months, then the service will resume. I would like to think that the longer length Gs will stay as they are, because I've seen people running for G trains at all stations. It's silly. They really need the full-length G trains. You shouldn't have to run, which of course then the conductor sees people running, delays the train, people are holding doors. It's ridiculous. Much as the Long Island Railroad lengthened the platforms because of people holding or holding up the service at Kew Gardens and Forest Hills, we need full-length G trains. Yeah, Bert.
Are there enough cars for this when the train comes back in?
When the what comes?
14th.
Oh, yeah, because we will have additional cars by then as well. The R179s are coming in on schedule apparently now. Speaking of which, the board also approved, it's not an executive order, but it was a process which allows transit and the MTA, without having to come before the board, because time is frequently of the essence on these topics, to update the some of the features on the R179s and the R211s. The R211s are going to be replacing the R46s, which is basically the mainstay of the A line, and a good deal of the R line as well. These changes to the trains might be something as simple as, it was explained, additional handholds on the outside of the car to allow track workers to get back on the train more easily. They don't want to have to delay these things with Kawasaki and or Bombardier. Bombardier is building the R179s, Kawasaki the R211s. Kawasaki builds a much better car, in my opinion, and you can tell them on site, and they don't delay cars like the R179s have been delayed. But having said all that, the R179s are coming in regularly now. You probably have seen them on the J and on the M. They haven't made it to the C line yet, unfortunately, but we're anxiously awaiting those. So that was approved at yesterday's board meeting. This was a terrible juxtaposition of events, but they announced at Transit Committee that the rider and the major event statistics for September were amongst the best and the lowest amount of major incidents in like 2 years. I mean, unfortunately, it was also announced on the morning that ATS went down on the Lex and the 7th Avenue line. There was a person who was drunk and fell into the tracks at 23rd Street on the number 1 line, and so that morning service was unbelievably terrible. But that was the morning they did announce that the major incidents in September were the best in many years. So clearly, where the subway action plan has had work done, and the tracks, signals, and water problems have been addressed. And by the way, they have this new portable vacuum unit that Andy was raving about that is really great. And the new vacuum trains, 1 of 3 of which have arrived on the property, are really powerful, and they're really sucking up the tracks like you wouldn't believe. Obviously, they are bearing some results, so that's all good. And yesterday, the chairman warned of the budget. The budget discussion will, of course, come in November. It is not looking great. Ridership trends continue down. I believe fare evasion is continuing up in an unabated fashion. Everyone I know see people routinely walking through the slam gates. And these are well-dressed. I mean, it's all walks of life are walking through the slam gates now. It's amazing. Ridership is also down fairly, 8%, 8 point some odd percent on weekends. I believe it's because there's so many GOs. And, the wall of signs you enter when you enter a station is very off-putting, and people say, the heck with this, I'm taking an Uber. Sarah Meyer is working on new signage whereby when you enter a station, just the line you're entering will be there, and if there's any work going on, and all of the other GOs will be in a different place. So you're not... I also believe that the start of the nighttime GOs, which was moved from 11:15 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., is something that has caused a ridership drop on weekdays. People don't want to deal with it if they're working late. Sorry? I see signs, but I don't know what station you're talking about. But
Edith, can you please use your microphone? Thank you.
34th on the A. Nothing, no announcement, no nothing.
and there was a nighttime GO there.
Yes, which meant I was on the wrong platform.
That's great.
Yeah.
How recent was that, Edith?
Last Monday,
And which platform?
this Monday. So I went to the center platform,
Thinking
of course,
to get an Uptown A.
right?
Yeah.
And it was on the other side.
And was that Uptown only or both directions?
They were making announcements.
Because it was both directions, you shouldn't have even
This
had
was
access to the middle.
interesting. They were making announcements that the Downtown Express was on the local. They didn't make an announcement about the Uptown Express.
That may have been that's why the middle platform was accessible, because one of the directions was still serving that platform.
No,
It wasn't for
neither
sure?
directions was serving that platform.
Then there should have been a tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what
I'm
day
not
of the
that
week?
stupid.
How recent? What day was this? Because we'll ask the station person.
It was Monday, after 5:04.
That's very bad.
And I rush after the meeting to get there.
Andrew,
Yeah.
it's going to, because I'm looking on the website.
Yep.
It's supposed to be downtown, because downtown A is supposed to go after West 4th via the F line. But the problem is we're also getting the same issues in Brooklyn, because they're not making announcements at J Street. They make announcements saying, ladies and gentlemen, the A train will arrive after the F train. Means, like, it's not explaining because.
The fact that the downtown A is going via the F after West 4th doesn't
Yeah.
tell me if it's running on the local or express track to West 4th Street.
Well, the only way to get down on the F line has to be on the local.
No, they have interlockings at West 4th Street. They can switch there. They do.
On the 8th Avenue platform? Coming from 14th Street, that means you can switch out to 14th into the local track at West 4th on the 8th Avenue platform? That's something new I've never seen.
All right, well, we're going to investigate this, because having people go up all the steps to a platform where there is no service is ridiculous and makes no sense. And somebody slipped the ball on that one.
Can I make an
Please.
observation?
Yeah.
I For those of you who don't know, I ride the 7 train, and which is a line that does go out very regularly for the control installation, the
CBTC. Yeah.
CBTC installation. And if it tells me, if the sign tells me on a Friday night or any other night that service is going to be, that the shutdown starts at 9:45, I assume I can get to a station at 9:30 and still get the train. That is not the case. So I have to get there 40 minutes early if it's supposed to be a certain time. What I think might be helpful is a rolling schedule, which sometimes I see, but then it has to be adhered to, and that should be on the countdown clocks, I think. That says the last train from this station will be at 9:30, but the last train from this
Yep.
station will be at 9:40. So that way, if I can take a different train if I'm trying to
Well,
get home.
I think we should ask Sally, for instance, when you see a sign that says there's a GO beginning at a certain time, what point on that line is that time measured from? And if it isn't from where you are, they should have the last train at various stations on the signs for each individual station.
In that the last bus, where are you, is it the last bus leaving? Well, there is no more 34th Street, 32nd Street. Where,
No.
it just says this time on this, it doesn't tell you very helpful.
Yeah. Speaking of buses, I've been in touch with Darrell, and our quarterly meeting on bus issues, he will have a date for us next week, and we will let everybody know what that date will be. And hopefully, everybody who's interested in making that meeting will be able to make it.
Andrew,
Yes.
he will have the date for us,
Yes.
but it's not going to be next week.
No, he will give us at least a week or 10 days advance notice. Just the
Okay,
date.
and,
Hopefully, he'll give us a choice of a few
hopefully,
dates.
well, can you, if possible, if it's going to be the following week, can it be after Election Day, please, when you talk to him?
Absolutely.
Please, because otherwise, something will
Absolutely.
happen. And while I have the mic, I just want to echo what Edith said about yellow things. I brought this up before.
Yellow
About
things?
the tapes, about
Oh.
the tapes. Because I can't tell, I have told you how many times that happens at 77th Street when the 6 isn't running, and there is no notification. You go down 2 flights of stairs at 77th Street, and then sometimes there'll be somebody in the token booth, sometimes not, but nothing. And those yellow tapes should be street level, not at the turnstile area, but where you enter the station. Because sometimes when I've brought it up before, we have it, it's in the fare control area. So if you're going to be if you're going to be contacting somebody about that, it has to be, oh,
May I have your attention? May I have your attention? This is your fire life safety director. We have concluded our testing of a fire alarm
it's finished.
for today.
Well, it worked.
Again,
I never even heard the
fire
first
drill
one.
testing is concluded at this time.
Why do they always do it when I'm talking?
I never even heard them announce it was under a test. All right.
Yeah, I know, but the beep. Anyway,
Siren song.
anyway.
Trudy, the only exception to what you're saying is if you're entering a station where one side doesn't have service, but there is an underpass, then they would keep those stairs open.
There is no underpass
understand
at
at 77th. I
77th
understand
Street. And, but it should, even there, it should say no, a yellow thing, maybe even a sign that says no downtown service, take under, whatever it is.
So your station, that station is not one of those along Lex that has
No,
the
it
thing on
does
the
not.
entrance?
When you're
Okay.
going downtown, you have to go on the
Some of the
west
Broadway
side
on
of the street.
86th Street has
No,
it,
I
as you know.
can tell you
Yeah.
where it is and where it isn't, believe me.
Okay.
No, 86th Street doesn't have.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
It has the-
86th Street has, yes. And 68th Street there's one entrance for everything. 51st, it's a convoluted way. but I can tell you which stations do and which stations don't.
We know.
116th Street doesn't.
That's okay, Trudy.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so, you have something, Chris?
No, I was waiting to see if you were finished
I'm finished.
on all the reports.
I'm all finished, yes.
There was one thing on your report about mentioning Flushing. Edith didn't make it. That's the one thing I just want to let you know.
Okay.
I was there, but at the Fast Forward in Manhattan, Edith and I were there. And I also did attend the Queens.
Talking about Harlem Hospital?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did attend the Queens one, which I have to say was between Queens and, I'll be honest with you, Queens numbers were not that high, but Manhattan's numbers, and Ellie can agree with me on this, it was like strong as Brooklyn. Strong as Brooklyn.
She can't, she's not here.
I know, but it was a little more better attending in the Manhattan one, I would say, because I see.
Where in Queens was that one?
Outside Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's like a little more going towards the east part of, going like you were going to Green Acres Mall. And with all the buses before they split themselves together. But the bottom line was, there were
Split
more.
themselves together?
Huh?
Nothing.
Oh, it was more about, it's more about accessible, there was more accessible people in the Manhattan one than Queens. you
Well,
know.
Harlem Hospital's easy to get to on the 2 and 3,
Exactly.
and several bus lines, and.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, Mikey, and somebody needs to get her top.
Except that Harlem Hospital, the last thing Ted Finkelstein did, it seems, before he left CCHR, was get Harlem Hospital to change their illegal ramp.
Oh,
When I got there, it was like, whoa! It had simply been a one ramp going up the 5 steps before. So both myself and Christina had called Alex, like, what the hell are you doing? This is inaccessible. They did a very nice job.
we have quite a few things to talk about before our speakers, so I want to try to move this along if we could. So let's get to old business, because we have several new items in new business. Yes, Scott?
Well, Lisa brought it up again, so I'll bring it around again. But
Microphone, please.
No, because we want, it's being taped.
Okay. Lisa brought it up earlier before the meeting about the MetroCard machines in Staten Island, how there's only 3 locations. I know of 2. The St. George Ferry Terminal and a transit center. I don't know where the third one is.
I just know what was spoken about yesterday at the board meeting.
Turn yours off. One more.
Sorry.
Yeah,
What-
there's only 2, the St. George Ferry Terminal and the transit center.
Somebody at the board meeting got up yesterday to speak about it and said 3, so
Well,
that's where.
he doesn't go to Staten Island, apparently.
I think it's at Tompkinsville.
No,
Are we talking about-
I think there's one at Tompkins.
What is going on here?
There's too many mics on.
We've been able to have 2 on, I mean, I understand. Are we talking about MetroCard machines? So the new Arthur Kill Station doesn't have them? No. And Tompkinsville doesn't have them?
None.
I
left in the
believe
sys-
it's at Tompkinsville.
Remember, there's none left in the system anywhere, but when he opened up Cortland, there's magically new MetroCard machines. So, Lisa brought it up at the meeting, discussed. We still don't.
All right, we'll take that back.
And Richmond Avenue, the other train station, there's 3 express bus lines, 2 local bus lines, train, and it's a station house. Huguenot is a station house, 2 express bus lines, and 1 local line.
Well, because there's no fare collection on SIR until, you know.
But how do I get to the transit center to get MetroCard if I can't get on the bus to get to the
No, on the bus, it's an issue. On the SIR, it's not an issue. Yeah. Obviously, it's,
If you take the train to get to a bus.
right. So only at St. George, huh? Okay. We will, are they gonna, yes, Stuart?
MetroCard Sales still has agreements with merchants to sell bus cards. So
If you put it in and find one,
I'll accept the challenge for you.
So
What
so
neighborhood are you in?
That was raised yesterday, that
Yeah.
you can go to a merchant and buy a card. And however, you have to pay $1 for each new card. So
Right, that's true.
if there's no MetroCard machine. If there's no MetroCard machine, then you can't refill it. So you can buy new ones, but you can't refill them. So it costs you an extra $1 each time. That's just what was raised yesterday.
The first one is Thanks, Chris. The first question is about the Atlantic ticket. Is it actually meeting or exceeding the predicted sales? This ties into what Stringer asked for. The second question, and then I'll sit down, is for many months I've asked to have Chief of the Transit Bureau come and make a presentation here. And since we're now starting to see the results of the decriminalization of fare evasion and the homeless problem, which is endemic, could we, I'm repeating that request that the new chief, he's not so new, of the Transit Bureau come and talk. Thanks.
Sure. I'll answer both of your questions. Atlantic Ticket is doing fairly well. President Ng of the LIRR told me he is beginning a new marketing campaign to make people even more aware of it, and we will be meeting with President Ng to go over that marketing campaign and see if we can make any suggestions. But it is, I don't know if it's, they didn't use the term meeting expectations, but it is definitely selling. There are some issues about where the majority of the tickets are being sold and what the inference of that is, and we're going to go over that with President Ng because we want it to be a success, obviously. When Controller Stringer held his press conference in Queens and called on, the subway fare to be at all of these stations, many folks said, and why doesn't it go to Penn Station? Well, the easy answer is, as soon as East Side Access is ready, which is approximately now 2022, if we live and make it there, Amtrak's intention is to sequentially take each of the 4 East River tunnels out to do work that has been delayed. And they can't do that until East Side Access is ready because they need that, the Long Island needs that kind of access, as does their own trains. So we're going to meet with President Ng, and as far as Chief Delatorre, I am trying to get him to be our November speaker. Yes. Microphone, please.
Jumped on. And I know I'm going to say, I'm trying to say this. As I've been on the Atlantic, going back and forth on the Long Island Railroad, there's been a lot of increased passenger levels at Atlantic, Nostrand, East New York. The only problem we're seeing is, and it needs to be pay attention more, is Jamaica, because there is no promotions there at all. And it has been brought up a lot there. Other stations, like after Jamaica, like what's supposed to go to Rosedale or Queens Village, they're there now. All of a sudden, now the promotion is there. But it's like you can see it definitely at Atlantic Avenue, like anywhere in any train platform, from the Q train to the 2 to the Pacific end. It's nice to see them there. But it would be also nice, those ambassadors are there, standing there, should be talking about the Atlantic ticket to them and then making it clear to them. I only see them doing that during rush hour at Jamaica end. The 2 young ladies are there, are doing a fantastic job, but I really don't see that in other stations.
To be fair,
Yes.
when you say you see people at Nostrand or East New York, you don't really know where they're headed and if they're using an Atlantic ticket. Because you can't know where they're headed.
I can only answer for Atlantic Avenue, and all I can say was Atlantic Avenue, I do see the lady ambassadors telling them about the Atlantic ticket.
You mean Atlantic Terminal?
Yes.
Okay.
Atlantic Barclay, Atlantic Terminal,
Okay.
to me, I see them doing that because they are giving them out. Even today, I was there and I saw it.
Well, we definitely want the program to succeed. We want to obviously see it expand to Metro North. I know that many Bronx residents and elected officials wanted to apply when the 4 new Bronx stations come online on the New Haven line when Penn Access starts. So I don't want to prolong this. We have a lot of other things to talk about. Mr. X?
I'm so glad I'm here today, and this year I'm so glad, damn glad I was here yesterday. As I showed the powers that be who's boss. I took on all challengers, from Peter Calico, aka the Devil's Disciple, to the Fabulous Moreland and Mae Young, you know who I'm referring to. I told them, you better think twice before you orchestrate nasty attacks on me. And for that, and to that individual who got in my face and decided to give me a fair warning, which is outrageous because his performance was bad over the years, he'll get what's coming to him at a later date. Okay? And I'm not apologizing for what happened yesterday. Forget it. Okay? You know damn well I went through hell here and at 3/4 of Madison Avenue over the years, the last 17 years. And you're telling me I should apologize? I should apologize? No. They should apologize, okay? It's been 17 years, over 17 years since I was stranded in Brooklyn, Greenpoint section, because the powers that be didn't post any signs where I was standing. So forcing me to wait outside in bitter cold weather that should be like a penguin was more important. And as I said yesterday, I mentioned this at the 2001 through 2012 bus forums, which were recorded by someone who desperately needs a girlfriend, but that's another story, okay? I don't play that. Okay, if first of all, the problem should have been alleviated when I mentioned this at the 2001 bus forum, which was held on April 19, the day I met Clara Schumann, who was the Queensboro president back then. Still, no apology from the MTA or the City Transit Department, which is BS. You tell me 17 years? That's 17 years down the drain, almost 18 down the drain. I don't find that amusing.
Can I ask you a
Not yet. Not yet.
Because we would like to hear your transit views.
No, not yet.
That's
No,
what this is about.
Not yet. Not yet.
It's not about personal gripes with MTA people.
Listen,
It's about
listen.
your
listen,
experience in the system.
Listen, I just told you what happened. Okay, if I get stranded in Brooklyn because there's no posted sign, and I bring it to your attention, their attention, I expect to get an apology and compensation for my loss. I don't expect to get a smart ass remark. I don't play that. You know damn well I don't play. You know me even the last 17 years. I don't play that.
When you had no service, I reported it for you. You were
Okay.
stuck on a G line, right? One
No,
time?
I was stranded in Brooklyn, Greenpoint section,
Yeah,
on Manhattan
G-line.
Avenue. Okay, on Manhattan Avenue, Huron Street,
Yeah.
but I was awaiting the bus, not the train. That's what happened. You should know what happened because I said, I mentioned at the 2001 through 2001 bus phones, you conducted them. If you forgot, I felt sorry for you. I really
remember
do.
everything.
Then your head's not square, and that means you can't dick it like Shaft. Okay?
I can remember all 473 subway stops. Can you?
Okay, but I'm just saying that I don't play that. Okay? So like I said,
Okay.
I'm not apologizing for what happened yesterday.
All right.
They got what they deserved. So I don't want to hear
That's fine.
I shouldn't be here. I should be banned from it.
Nobody said
no.
that.
You said it earlier today, and so did
no.
this clown here. I don't play that.
No.
Now
Didn't
you got
say
a
that.
problem with me? You tell me right now. Don't tell me at a later date.
I would like to hear transit issues. That's what. Yes, Stuart.
An old item that I had raised, I said in my neighborhood and in the Gravesend community, they were installing electronic bus notification
Oh, yeah, I've seen 'em.
signs. And I was complaining that the guide-a-ride portion of the sign was removed. They've since put them back, so I don't know
That's
it's through our efforts or whether
excellent.
they just realize that people need to know the strip map and which stops and times are limited. So they returned all that. So
That's excellent.
that was a good thing. And Tompkinsville is the third location for the MetroCard machine, and I share that with my colleague.
Yeah. Well, Tompkinsville, you know,
And one last thing, if I can.
there's an important reason why they had him at
Yes, it's
Tompkinsville.
called fare evasion.
Yes.
Or the lack thereof. But most people were getting on
And
there
avoid the
for
fare.
free, right. One last thing. You're looking at the question is, so the controller made the comments about the underutilization of those.
Commuter rail, yeah.
Rail cars. So you're looking at it as a deficit, meaning we have a deficit now. Are we running too many cars? But the question is, even if the fare was something other than the Long Island Railroad fare, it's not a deficit. You're getting income, you're getting revenue. So
For the
maybe we need
empty
to-
seats, absolutely.
so maybe we need to spin it a different way.
No, I didn't spin it as deficit. I just said it's going to be even more that would have to be subsidized. Who will do it?
Maybe we should propose a city
We have.
tariff.
Oh,
Meaning that the rate within the city limits or the city stations is at a certain rate, you know.
I'd like to get people used to using it and make it successful. Bradley had done an extensive analysis of the loading, and it appears that the trains going between Jamaica and Atlantic Terminal had a lot of capacity. And So if you can get somebody to buy the new level of MetroCard and fill an empty seat, you've taken care of 2 problems right there. But we got to move on, folks, because our speaker is going to be coming, and we have issues to discuss. Please. Is it on that topic? Yes. Quickly, please.
It's going to be quick. I did mention last month, it's in the minutes, that OPWDD has been using that lines. I told you if you needed someone from them, I can bring them. Some of the self-direction staff who do use the trains going from Brooklyn to Queens.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
And I did say that because I did mention about the commissioner is really pleased about the Atlantic ticket, and a lot of the staffs have been using it. I have a lot of agencies who uses that since then.
something that would be great. Metro North has the ability and has run trains. They call them East Bronx locals that serve, Melrose, Morrisania, Tremont, Williamsbridge, all of that, end at Mount Vernon West, which is just 1 stop over the city line. The Long Island Railroad doesn't have anything that ends at Valley Stream well, there is some trains that end at Great Neck, but there's a pocket track there that's recently was renovated. But, there's nothing that ends at Floral Park or Belrose. If they had trains that did that, then you would not have the issue of having people who pay a much higher fare standing or whatever. So, we're going to discuss all of these things with Phil when we talk to him. But, so let's move on. We actually have to do an item of business now. I guess Randy, at the Metro North Committee, Randy's board seat, became a holdover. I think like 3/4 of the board members on the MTA board are holdovers now. So we hope the governor's appointments office will act this coming spring. I know it's not their most important issue, but my seat is also in holdover status, so I need to be renominated if you are so inclined for the next term, just so that we can send that. And I guess the Long Island Railroad, Ira, will be retiring because he's going to become a judge.
Yes, he is.
We'll have to refer to
Finally.
him as Your Honor.
Finally. You know how long that's been in the works?
Well, he's running unopposed.
Yeah, that's usually the case also, when it finally happens.
Queen's Civil Court.
I would like to nominate Andrew to be our
Thank you.
representative on the
Thank you so much.
MTA board.
So second.
I guess we need a vote for the records. All in favor?
Any opposed?
Any opposed? All right, well, thank you so much. I will hopefully keep doing you proud.
You always do.
Thank you so much. As you heard from my earlier report, in addition to all the wonderful things that are happening during the holiday period, the lights, the food, the celebrations, the parties, the fare hike hearings, yes, that comes into play this time. And I'm remembering riding the bus to Staten Island, to the College of Staten Island, the magnificent holiday decorations along Victory Bowl. Oh, it was just beautiful. Yeah, just beautiful. But it's happening again. It's happening again this December, and we need to discuss participation at these. We will know, actually, will we know by our next meeting what the proposals are? Because the board will be meeting. I guess we probably will. We will. Yes.
So they,
What are the dates for the fair hearing?
Don't have those dates yet.
what we understand, which Helene told us, was they're looking at, and it hasn't been solidified because there's still a lot of venues and a lot of logistics to finalize. They're looking from November 27th through December 13th, but they don't have specific dates, locations, times,
And I heard there'd be at least
etc.
6 of them. Suburbs, boroughs, yeah. So,
The chairman yesterday said that the November board meeting will include the release of the budget for the coming years. So once that's out, there should be a better idea of the specificity of some of the proposals. But at the same time, he didn't want to go into too many specifics until the sustainability report comes out, which is due at the end of the year. So he did say that the budget was balanced through 2019.
yeah, only through 19.
Right, but that they have to then look at alternative funding sustainable funding sources.
And the
into
chairman
years
said
beyond.
yesterday that, absent additional funding sources, such as a congestion pricing, a couple of cents on a gas tax, a vehicle registration fee, or one of the other possibilities
Or
of value capture.
He's pushing, just so you know, I don't know if he said it or not, but he is pushing reviving the commuter tax. That
Good
is
luck with
what he's.
that.
No, I know, I understand, good luck with it. I am just giving you some information, that is what he is pushing more than anything else at this point.
So absent those, and he said this is the last thing they want to do, would be higher than normal fare hikes, and he says the very absolute last thing we would want to do is service cuts. We definitely don't want to go down that highway again. That's really bad. I think people would, and they've demonstrated it in poll after poll, would rather pay a little more than have their service cut. Then you'll have more ridership drop off and give you even larger deficits. So that's a non-winning game. Edith.
Unfortunately, the disability community is we're still feeling the impact of 2010. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't cross the river to downtown Brooklyn without taking a train. There are people who don't take trains. They're not going to wheel across the Brooklyn Bridge.
The B-51 is not in existence anymore? No, I guess not.
It's only the B-39.
Oh, it's the only one. Oh, that's
Excuse me?
Williamsburg Bridge, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the, yeah.
It's been 10 years, Andrew.
Yeah,
I mean, it's 10 years.
it's terrible.
And that's why we need a bus for them. The only thing that they replaced was the Southeast Brooklyn. One of the rare things that whatever did. But no, 10 years it's been without that bus.
Yeah.
10 years
I
it's
thought they had
been.
a substitute, but I guess.
No,
They-
no.
They expect you to go to the Williamsburg Bridge instead of the, yes.
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 And the Williamsburg Bridge, to be perfectly honest, is a bitch to wheel over.
Yeah,
It does not.
I wouldn't expect it in this weather either, so.
I've done it in snowstorms.
We will, so of course, let you know when that bus forum is. That's one of many issues that have to be discussed.
I mean, the other question is, are they
But
going
I didn't
to-
get my question answered, which I posed a few seconds ago, which was, do folks want to pledge, once we know the dates and places, to attend and listen, and if necessary, if we're taking a position, to testify?
Yes.
Haven't we always?
Well, yeah, but not everybody can make these, yeah.
Andrew,
Yeah.
as I have every year, assuming I know the date and there's no conflict, I will testify at the Manhattan meeting on behalf of this council, as
If
I
we opt to
usually
take
do.
a position, I mean, we may
Well,
want to just
even-
listen.
No, we should, whether we take a position or not, we should say something, even if it's that, because that is another way, as I keep on talking about, of letting people know that we're alive and that we exist and that we have a position, even if our position is we go along with whatever they're saying. But you've heard me say this before. It is at these big fora, it is where there is media coverage, et cetera, that we have to appear. And as the Transit Riders Council, not in any of our other various convolutions that we
Okay.
all have.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yep,
Okay.
I've got your commitment.
I was also going to question whether it's going to be the same locations as usual. I
don't
think
know.
it's in
Don't know yet.
time to look at, if not for this year, it's like, it's always a location. It was very funny when Byford kept talking about, we were in, what's that, Harlem? Well, we're going to have an other Manhattan. It's like, you're in Manhattan.
Yes, he's, chalk it up to being from Toronto
At
and Great
least he
Britain.
didn't call it the Village of Harlem. I mean, some of the locations are not the most accessible.
I'm sure. Folks, we're going to introduce our speaker now, and just a reminder to hold your questions till the end, and the paper and pencil are being distributed even as I say this, so that you can make note of the questions you would like to ask, but
We scared her
Where's
away.
her bio? I think I saw it there. Oh, do you want to give the quick update on the 100 days before we do this? Is Bradley going to do that, or are you going to do that? Ellen? Ellen is going to quickly give an update on one of my earlier comments on the 100 days report. Ellen, microphone, Ellen.
You may remember that most of you did a survey a little while back, and out of that survey we came up with a route that we thought would be very impactful to look at performance and the rider experience. And that route chosen was from Astoria, Queens, down to Bowling Green Station. So since that time, I think you got a draft of the report, and we met with President Byford about it. The way we're looking at it is it's very in line with the Fast Forward program, and many of the elements that we are recommending fall within the Fast Forward program. So it's sort of applying, okay, this is the broad stroke, and now we'd like to know some details of how this route will improve from Fast Forward. We've been meeting with staff, and we're very encouraged by how much is getting done on the line and how much it aligns with the recommendations we came up with. So we are getting close to the final point of putting it out publicly soon.
So it's a pleasure to introduce Rochelle Glazer. Glazier or Glazier?
Yes, sir.
Glazier. New York City Transit's Chief Station Officer. And she is leading the Division of Station Environment and Operations as part of Andy Byford's efforts to deliver improvements for its customers, increase productivity, and maintain the division's effectiveness. Rochelle is an accomplished leader with significant experience in managing dynamic projects and teams. She has also tremendous knowledge of customer service, transportation.
Yeah.
No. Okay. There we go. Maintenance and operations departments of Union Pacific Railroad. Wow, you haven't had passengers in a very long time.
No.
The nation's largest railroad system. Throughout her career, Rochelle has focused on issues that serve the interests of employees as well as day-to-day, this is not the way I want to see this, day-to-day and strategic concerns of large look at that, organizations, I guess that is. Please join me in welcoming Rochelle, and again, we're going to hold our questions till the very end, and then everyone will have a chance. Rochelle, so
Hi.
glad you're here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the invite, and I'm very happy to be here today. And I'm just going to go over our group station manager, a quick presentation and a very quick video for you, and then I'll answer any questions that you folks might have. So one of the Fast Forward initiatives was to redesign the station's model. So prior to the Fast Forward plan, we had superintendents and general superintendents that would oversee a very large structure. As you can see in the handout, we've made the positions much more defined and focused to a smaller area so that we have the ability to handle issues at hand. So New York City Transit needs to modernize from top to bottom. Our focuses were on the customer experience, the large-scale investments, overhaul internal processes, and shift organizational culture. The transit will deliver on 4 equal priorities: transform the subway, reimagine the bus network, and accelerate accessibility, as well as engage and empower our employees. So our goals were to ensure clear accountability for each station, take customer service to the next level, improve our station environments more quickly, and empower GSMs with tools and resources at hand so we don't get caught up in that sending a request in and it taking 3 or 4 months for an issue to be handled, that they're now empowered to handle that issue on hand when they encounter such. The new station management model is here, and so that we have 4 districts. Prior to the reorganization, we had 2. We had a north and a south district. We currently have 4 districts: Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and Brooklyn. And as you'll see in the pictures there, those are our 4 district customer service managers. And underneath them will be a GSM overseeing approximately 25 stations or less. So the geographic zones for the district customer service managers, they oversee a larger territory, approximately 125 stations. The project groups are, we have a project GSM in each division: Bronx, Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. And that position is focused at night to overhaul and sustain our large projects, such as cleaning and sanitizing, painting and scraping, and enhanced track tile cleaning, as well as customer service, cleaning, maintenance, and safety. A lot of those items will be done on day shift with our GSMs. So the purpose of this was to provide a single point of accountability for 25 stations or less, more manageable in terms of cleanliness, customer service, and maintenance. It's going to enable our folks to foster relationships and open lines of communication with our customers and community partners, and be the face of New York City Transit. So we want you guys to know who your GSM is when you go out there and ride at a particular station. We want you to be familiar and have the opportunity to develop a relationship with your respective GSM. So our initiative is to support the GSMs in delivering clean, safe, well-maintained, and readily accessible stations, provide excellent customer service, and then, again, frontline direct accountability. Manage the skilled trades and maintenance staff, coordinate the management of emergencies, unusual occurrences, and special events. And the results: identify a single person responsible for a group of stations, customer service, station environment, increased engagement, and continuous improvement daily. Credible management. We want you to be able to see the results out there that we're making. Quick video here. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see if it's gonna work. Nope. Okay, let's see if it works.
Click on a slide.
This one here?
Let me.
Play?
I'll be right back.
Okay. See if I can get it to play here.
Try clicking on the image and.
Oh, it's a video. Oh, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Let's see. It's hoping to show. Let's see.
Yes, somebody's here to help.
Hi. I'm gonna show that video for them.
No, it doesn't look like it's a video. Oh, yeah, then you have to go to the YouTube link.
If you go to the notes section, it's in.
Yeah, we have to go to the YouTube link.
Okay.
It's on the notes. Okay. It's not even connected to the internet. We didn't know about this. Next time we should coordinate this. No, it's on YouTube. That's why we didn't know about it.
I see our stations as the shopfront of New York City Transit subway. It's the first thing that people see. I want that to be universally, consistently excellent.
We have more stations than any other subway system in the world. Some of them are brand new, but many of them are over 100 years old. Most of our stations are in good shape, but some of them need work. Rebuilding a station takes time and money, and we can't undo decades of underinvestment quickly. But what we can do relatively quickly is to manage our stations better.
What we want to do is look for every opportunity, making sure that we're providing the best customer service across all stations. That's what this program's about.
We're giving our station staff the resources they need and a management structure that is accountable and can move fast to fix problems. With the Group Station Manager program, we're empowering our employees to deliver great customer service and improve the cleanliness and appearance of our stations.
So in the past, we had different managers who were responsible for different aspects of a station's appearance and the way that it functions. Now we've rolled all those functions into one manager over 25 stations.
Superintendents, station supervisors, station agents, cleaners, and maintenance crews will all report to a single GSM.
We take care of graffiti, we clean the platforms, that includes the refuse, that includes any stains. We handle signage, it has to be current. We know that that's big with customers.
So our station agents and group station managers have been going through customer service training. We're training them on the new materials they now can offer customers. Our new MyMTA app, new digital signage, making sure that people get the information that they need to make the best decision about their travel.
In every station, customers will see contact info for the GSM who is responsible. If a customer has a complaint, a suggestion, a compliment, they can reach out and they will hear back from the GSM.
I am hoping to develop a relationship with all of my regular commuters so that they can get in contact with me right away, and I can show them by responding and correcting the situation how important they are to me.
I also want to make the subway station a part of their community, a part of their neighborhood, bring that neighborhood into the subway system, and make it more of a welcome experience instead of just another chore or challenge that they have to get through.
The Group Station Manager Initiative by Transit is a natural fit with neighborhood policing and what we're doing in the NYPD. As a team, they'll be working on all the issues, and I think it's going to produce a really, really positive outcome going forward.
This is a model that I know works. Not only did I do this job back in London in the Tube, but we also introduced it in my last job in Toronto. And in all cases, it made a real difference.
This is a game changer for improving customer service.
We care about the customer because you know what? All 50,000 of us, we're New Yorkers too. And we want to make sure that people can get to daycare, doctor's appointments, to work. And we want to make sure we're the transit agency to get you to where you need to go.
Getting better at customer service, at information, at cleanliness, that's what New Yorkers want, and that's what New Yorkers deserve.
Then you go back to your presentation.
There.
This one?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, you are. All right, and that pretty much wraps up our presentation for the GSMs. I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview, and I'm certainly available to answer questions if you should have any.
Stuart.
Thank you.
What do you envision the hours will be of these individuals?
So each of our stations will have a poster with the designated GSM as well as their contact info on that poster. In terms of hours, our folks are making a point to visit all shifts and tours. I would say a typical hour, you know, they typically work somewhere between 8 to 10 hours a day, but I guess in the event of an emergency or snow duty, we'll certainly be here longer hours.
So there's no intention to rotate their shifts or weekends as well?
Yes, they are rotating their shifts and weekends. So they're making a point to be available on different tours and as well as the weekend shifts.
Okay, last question. What are you going to do to measure their effectiveness?
So we have several things in place. We have the new customer survey that went out to the public. So we're certainly engaging our customers there to see if we're noticing any type of improvement within the stations. We also have some internal measures that we're using to engage folks on. And then in terms of productivity, so what they're doing is they're going to be presenting monthly on the items that they've been able to improve on in specific stations. So for example, next month they'll be coming in to do a presentation with pictures showing before and after pictures of pieces that they're working to modernize within each station. So for example, we can't fix everything. We can't fix all the structural damage that's out there. We can't fix every water leak, but we can make significant improvements in terms of paint, cleanliness, replacement of benches, replacement of worn trash receptacles. Those are things that we should be able to upkeep regularly.
So they may have different priorities at different stations?
Certainly.
Okay.
Two questions, and maybe old-timers like me will remember that this is not the first time that there were station managers, and I would suggest for those who know and who either rode the subways a long time, that you may want to refine and say that this is a you may want to redefine and say it's a refinement or an upgrade or an updating of a program that was once and then removed, because just making that statement somehow does away with, people have riders, customers, whatever we call them, have so little confidence in the credibility. And when you're doing something that is positive, but you start off with a statement that isn't exactly credible, it kind of makes people say, ugh, you know, they're all the saying that this is a new program. Remember we had the station managers program? Okay, so that's all I'm suggesting that the presentation be made differently. That's number one. Number two, you are doing this geographically, right?
Yes.
Okay, then I would strongly suggest, and I don't know how you came up with it, that the three stations from the 2nd Avenue subway, or as you call it, the Q line, 96th Street, 86th Street, and 72nd Street are not Midtown or Lower Manhattan. And since you have stations on the number 6 line, the number 4 and 5, that are geographically there, and it would probably be easier to have those 3 stations in that group, and it would make more sense not to call them Midtown or Lower Manhattan. So can you either explain why you just took those 3 stations and threw them in Midtown and Lower Manhattan, and what was the rationale?
Certainly.
And is there any way of moving them back into where it makes more sense?
Certainly. So I'll explain a few key differences in this program and the previous line managers program. The biggest key difference in this plan is that previously when they tried to roll out a line program, they were responsible for a line, let's say the 4-5. They were responsible for that 4-5 line all the way from Bowling Green all the way up to the Bronx, right, which was an excessive number of stations.
But I'm not asking you how it differs, because it's a new program. It's a refined program. It's not the same. All I'm suggesting, and 'cause this is what I do or used to do for the MTA actually, is how you present it. How you present. I'm not asking you to explain the differences in the program. It's good that you're bringing it back. It's good that you're doing it again. I'm just suggesting how you present it to the public.
Okay.
So let's get to the second thing, why you have 3 that are definitely upper Manhattan stations thrown into the lower.
So part of that was the number of stations. Our goal was to ensure that people managed right around the 27 stations or less. And part of that was due to the complexity of stations. So those 2 factors were taken into account when we made that schedule.
But I would suggest that if you're going to have these station managers, these GSMs responsible and getting from one station, that you try to have it in a close geographic area, even if it means moving those 3 stations which you now have in a, where is it? It's in the Bronx, Upper Manhattan, I believe.
Trudy, it may be because along a line, you want to group them so they can just ride from station, as opposed to having
No,
to
but
exit
it
the
is only,
system.
those are the only queues that are there like that, and I'm just saying,
But if 96th, 86th, and 72nd on the queue are also linked to 63rd and Lex, 57th and 7th, and
but
those,
it's
that makes
not,
perfect
it's
sense.
just, no, to me, it makes more sense that you don't call those Midtown, Lower Manhattan stations.
I don't know that, I think that's the term for the GSMs, and the bulk of them
look.
probably are Midtown.
No, they all are, except for those 3. Look, I am making a suggestion,
Okay.
whether you can take it or
All
not,
right.
it
Your
doesn't really
suggestion has
matter.
been made.
It just seems to make sense if you're doing this geographically, rather than by line, or rather than,
Are you
putting-
doing it by line or geographically?
It says geographically.
Geographically.
Andrew, on the chart that we were
customer service
given,
manager.
it does it by geographic area. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought this up,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
So that's all I'm
Edith.
saying.
Mike?
I have an issue with the naming of stations, and I would really love to see a consistent format. For example, the elevator and the fare, the 24-hour fare at 175th on the A train is at 177th Street. 175th has nothing at that corner. I love this one. The George Washington 181st on the 1 train is like 4 blocks away. It's very confusing to the public who is looking for a station. I am looking at the, what color? What color? Oh. No, it's the first sheet, Cynthia Davis.
Okay.
If you look at in zone 227, 181st Street, George Washington Bridge, which is at 150, which is at 177th basically to 179th between Fort Washington and Broadway, and the station itself is actually at 181st and St. Nicholas. The 177th Street is actually listed as 175 Street, and that's in the first column. It's very hard when there's not a consistency. Inwood/207. I know it eventually will be, but if we set up a system going forward and new stations are named with more logical and identifiable locations, I think that's an important issue. We've had this discussion before, and I'm just raising it as a problem, because if you go to 175th Street, you know it's an accessible station, and you're 2 blocks away from the elevator.
This is not for finding stations, this is for finding station managers.
I understand that.
So this is just an internal reference tool
Right.
that we wanted to print out to distribute to folks just for added help.
And Edith, let me tell you that we have seen a copy of the new accessibility brochure that we are going to be getting everybody copies of, and it not only shows you exactly in a station where the elevator it is, but it's an amazing booklet. When you see this booklet, you're gonna say, "Oh, wow!" Like you
Yeah,
said when
no,
you saw those
excuse me.
signs that said an alternate.
I love that
Well,
sign.
you're gonna love this booklet. It
Okay,
gives you the
but-
geography of every
but
station.
I want to tell you, there is, at 207, the sign is up above the wheelchair elderly sign. I can't read it. I can barely see it.
That's a
So
different
those
issue.
are
There's
those
no
are,
braille on them.
Can I add on to that?
Sure.
So we're working with Alex. We're going out to stations and we're identifying stations where we have opportunities to improve on the signage for folks. as well as the Braille. We're going to be rolling out a pilot at Fulton where we actually paint the symbol on the concrete where folks would get on the train. So we do have initiatives in place. We'll be working with Alex over the next few months to improve on certain things, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be discussing those in the board meetings and
Okay,
reviews.
the next problem is, similar to the fact that you have to go to Sam Ford to get the fold-out map of accessible stations. Where are we disseminating these things? I give the guy in the booth, the NYC tourist people, I always give them a handful of these. I give them to train workers, etc., who are working on 2 cards ago. They don't seem to have these being disseminated to train workers, much less to booth workers.
Okay.
So it's great to have this. I'll be really excited about it. I'll put it in my collection. But I
Certainly.
want to know how every person can get this, other than my getting a quantity from Sam and disseminating them.
Certainly. Certainly.
I was wondering where the staff came from. Are they redesignated or are they new hires? And how are they being trained?
Both. So we do have some folks externally. We have folks from other departments, and we do have folks that were internal placements, internal to stations and station maintenance. So prior to the reorganization, we had station maintenance, its separate entity, and we had stations as a different entity. So we combined those, so we have stations maintenance as well as station operations together now. And in terms of training, they did go through approximately 6 weeks of training, classroom training, customer service training, fire and safety training, a wide variety of training. And there's still, that training will not cease. That's continuous training will be provided to them over the next 6 months to a year.
Just to be specific, there's a sign on the station that says so-and-so is the GSM.
Yes, sir.
If I walk into the station and there's water pouring down the stairs, how do I reach him?
So you can tweet, email, you can contact the booth. There's several options, but tweeting goes right out to the managers right away. Email, they get email, and I'd say probably maybe a 15 to 20 minute lag.
So his email address is written somewhere?
It is, yes, sir. It's on the posters. We're working to finish the distribution of posters, so there are a few locations that don't have posters up. Our commitment was to have those up by the end of the month.
And if he's not on duty, is his substitute
Certainly.
listed?
We have around-the-clock coverage for each. We have a GSM as well as a group station superintendents, and there's 24-hour coverage at those places.
And his address is also available?
Same address, yes, sir.
Same address?
Yes,
so
sir.
if he goes off duty, it's switched over to the other.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But it's easier if you bring your own umbrella.
I'm actually glad to see that there are going to be some managers, but I am going to go with Edith on, I hope some of them are more trained on accessibility, because that's the one thing that a lot of them, when you do I know they're supposed to go for training, but they need to sometimes get a little reminding them that Edith could be in a motorized wheelchair, a person could be hitting disabilities or a senior who may not know all the trains or know the buses, and they need sometimes your ambassadors, whatever you want to call them, need to show the courtesy and respect to that person, because the person can maybe a little nervous or low function or maybe a high function. We can't assume. The other concern that I also have is, and I hope they are doing this soon, is 7th Avenue on the B&Q. And I passed there millions of times. That station needs a massive power wash, as well as Chambers Street, because it needs to be check out the edges on the.
Yeah, Chambers Street looks like it's out of a Freddy Krueger movie.
I'm being nice. I'm not saying that. I'm pleading the fifth on that one. All I'm saying is, but 7th Avenue is turning into.
Yes.
You can say 7th Avenue is turning into a similar.
Okay.
Because sometimes you don't even know when a thingamajiggy is coming, and I'm being nice because there's some people maybe get scared.
Yes.
But the concern is The safety concern is the edges on certain part of the that station needs to be fixed, because I know we have geos on weekends. Nice to see them finally fixing the tracks. But at the same time, when you do have those people, and say the train does go into shuttle bus mode, which is general order, I know geo, we need to like have someone, in case someone to direct them where they should go and help them out, because I'm glad to see them there, and I do want to compliment on that. But we need to see them more, like reminding them, like when the L train is not going to be running from Broadway, because Broadway Junction is not accessible. They need to prepare themselves, because that is a major ADA zone that cannot get access. So I hope we can work on that.
Absolutely, and just to your point, so folks know, Alex has been a huge asset to the team, and we're committed to going out with him bi-weekly. We do station audits, and we're working with him to complete tasks very quickly, as well as educate our team. So he's been a wonderful asset and a huge advocate, and he's working very well with the GSMs.
And the fact that you're going to have GSMs out there
Yes.
and held responsible for station
Certainly.
conditions, I would expect would reverberate amongst the individual station folks, and things would get fixed much faster.
Absolutely.
Stuart again, and then Carol.
Just very briefly, so how do the managers communicate with the district manager? What's the plan on how they're going to communicate?
So the district manager actually has their office out in the field as well. So they interact, personally on a daily basis, as well as through email. And the district manager, as well as myself, also go to other tours and other shifts. So like tonight, I made a commitment to go out on nights. I'm going to be out on nights observing our mobile wash team tonight. So all of us, and that's a really good piece that I think you mentioned earlier about being available on other shifts. This isn't just a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And all of us are making a commitment to be out there on other shifts, interacting with customers, and ensuring that tasks are getting complete with quality.
Do you envision they'll be meeting in some formal way to exchange what they observe? Because some stations obviously were built at the same times. They may come up with different solutions. Is there like cross-training you're envisioning or anything like that?
In terms of cross-training, I don't know that cross-training is on the agenda, with the exception of Alex's team as well as customer service. We are working with them regularly, but we do meet monthly. The DCSMs, District Customer Service Managers, have meetings with their GSMs, respective GSMs, monthly as well.
What I was getting at is, they all have to develop a sense of what they're spotting.
Yes.
Since you said they may have individual goals based on their lines, for lack of a better
Certainly.
word. So I'm just curious.
So that's why they'll be coming in to do presentations with pictures and findings and different qualities, and then after they come and report their findings, it will be us, us managers will be going out there and auditing progress personally. So one of the reasons I like going out at night to observe mobile wash is I like to see what the quality of the cleanliness is after they get done, because we had some opportunities to improve in that area when I first got here. We've focused on getting better equipment, we focused on getting better cleaner, and we also focused on educating our folks in terms of how they utilize that equipment. So we brought folks in from the vendors to help train them how to use equipment appropriately, and we've seen a better result in the last couple months by doing that.
When you have somebody on the platform who may press the help point, are the people who take those calls, that goes to the Rail Control Center, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so how do they then communicate with the group station manager that there's a problem at that, how does that relationship work?
They certainly do. Yes, ma'am. So if there's an issue, they reach out to the respective manager on duty, whether it's the GSM or if it's on the night tour, they would reach out to the group station superintendent that's on duty.
And oh.
Mike. The help points. But I'm just questioning whether they're both going to the same place. I was under the impression that one button was supposedly the emergency, and the other one was
For the,
A
For the
question.
booth.
yeah, for the booth.
Okay, because I was just, they were sending the cops down. There was an elevator problem. I mean, that certainly doesn't help me
Yeah.
from a help point.
And so let's say there's a broken stair, you know, there's some tiles that are broken that need, you know, people could trip and it could be a real hazard. What is the process for to say, okay, to tag that issue, and is there a time, you know, it has to be fixed within 24 hours, or, I mean, do you have time limits on when some of this stuff has to be fixed?
Certainly. If it's a safety issue that would impact the safety of our customers or employees, we would address it within, 24 hours. We would address it. So the difference prior is that maintenance was its own entity. So we used to have to contact maintenance to make a repair on the spot. We don't have to contact maintenance anymore because they're under our umbrella. So they're going to be, we have a allocated number of maintenance folks that will be on each line, working on each respective division of stations.
For the
25 or less.
25
Yes.
different groups?
Yeah, so essentially if we incur an emergency situation that needs to be rectified on the spot, we would immediately pull those folks over there to correct that situation.
Like the roof falling, the
Certainly.
ceiling falling in or whatever?
Yes.
Can I just follow up on this will be very quick. If there is a situation, you said they'll communicate by email or whatever. First of all, will anybody have either walkie-talkies or just plain old cell phones that they can just talk to each other immediately?
They have
rather than wait?
everybody's equipped with
They
a cell
will,
phone.
okay, that's number one. Number two, in something simple that won't take 24 hours, because it's happened to me any number of times, or an escalator, where there's an up and a down escalator, Grand Central specifically, but there are so many other places, and one of the escalators breaks, and the only one that's working is a down escalator, and it is much easier to go down than to go up, especially for elderly people.
Certainly.
And you go to the booth, and they say, oh, well, I can't do that. Somebody has, and it's just a matter of flipping a switch. So
Not in
how
all
do we-
cases. Not in all
Oh, well,
cases.
in enough, believe me, I've been doing
Yes.
this for a long,
Absolutely.
long time, long before you came here. Let me just tell you. It is in most cases, especially at Grand Central, at 59th Street, at 51st Street, I can give you all the escalators that just need just to switch it from an up to a down, okay? And all I'm saying is, how do you then, not 24 hours, how do you get in touch with the GSM, or somebody at the station gets in touch with somebody who says, yes, you can flip the switch, because they all know how to flip I know how to flip the switch.
To Trudy's question, Rochelle, would you be better off making a report about a condition like that or any other condition by emailing the GSM or
No.
by going to a help point and pushing that button and saying the problem?
No, that is not what I asked.
Well, that's what I'm asking. though.
Okay, but can I first have an answer? Because on the stations where there are booths, well, how are the booth,
They're
you
not
can
gonna
go to a
leave the
booth
booth to come out
agent
and
who
press a
should be
button.
able to get in touch with somebody who says it's okay to flip the switch from up to down.
So to answer your question specifically at Grand Central
No,
State-
not specifically, because
Okay.
I'm saying I just use that as an example.
So there's a couple options. So at Grand Central, we have wayfinders there. Wayfinders are equipped with cell phones. Those are the folks that you see out in the orange vest helping customers. So if you were to find a wayfinder with an orange vest and go to them and say, hey, do we have the option to flip the switch on the escalator, they would be able to make that decision on the spot. But not all escalators can be switched, so I just wanted to
But
caution
I am
that.
telling you that I know that all escalators, but I am talking about, so they are part of this program too,
Certainly,
the Wayfinders?
yes.
Okay, you didn't present that, so.
Okay. So the Wayfinders we actually rolled out last year. That was a pilot program which we extended. We have 120 Wayfinders that are distributed throughout the system to help people during rush hour at the busiest stations, at the larger stations where we have a large number of folks. They also go to smaller stations. They respond to service interruptions, anywhere they're needed, they pretty much travel through the system, helping customers in any way, shape, or form
And
they
do
can.
they relate to the GSMs? How, if you had a flow chart or an organization chart, what is their position
So a
in terms of all of
wayfinder is
this?
like a station agent, but he or she is out of the booth. So the issue with the station agents is they're technically, right now, they don't leave the booth unless they're gonna go on a break. So they wouldn't leave the booth typically to go out and do normal activities, but your wayfinder would be there as a form of customer service to assist you through areas within the station that you need help with. If they need to make a call, they have a cell phone on their presently on them, so that they can reach out to a manager if they need help.
Thank you. So that actually dovetails nicely into my question, which is if a wayfinder sees or there's overcrowding on a platform because especially at a transfer point, do the station managers have the ability to call in a SWAT team, quote unquote, to come in and immediately address that situation, to do crowd control, or
Yes.
and if needed to bring in the police, not on an arrest somebody basis, but on a crowd management basis? Do they have that ability?
So, I mean, I haven't seen the police get involved too much, but in terms of us sending wayfinders out to help during crowd control, we absolutely have been doing that. An example last night was at Penn Station. That's an ESI station, which we're in the process of rehabilitating. ESI is enhanced stations, yes. And so so that's a good thing. We're going to be working on improving that station. So we had a number of wayfinders available at that station to help with crowd control, just due to the overcrowding there.
There is a question that Lisa just brought to my thunder, and thank you, Lisa. Regarding your GOs going on this coming weekend, there is a concern because there are some signages have errors. For example, you still have the D train, but the D is not running this weekend.
Okay.
There are some of the ambassadors or some of your employees. I'm not saying that. As I said, I'm glad there's some other routes, but accessibility routes, they're not sure.
Okay.
And since the D train is technically not running, those ambassadors as one, to whatever you guys, I'm still getting used to the name, so forgive me. They're not sure how a person can get to A, Manhattan, B, or downtown Brooklyn, or C, just for the heck of it, Queens.
Okay.
This has been going on for I'll say not last weekend, but the first weekend when we didn't have the 4 train, the Q, but thank God we had the D. But everyone's forgetting the D was running that day, and people can switch to the M to get to 96th Street and 2nd Avenue, but they don't say it. But now they can say it now. It's like the opposite way.
So I think to answer your question, we've been working with customer service to help us distribute scripts to our folks so that they have a clear understanding of what the options are. One of the great points you brought up that I can certainly mention to Sarah Meyer so that we can develop a cohesive plan between the two of us is making sure that folks know the accessible stations. So that's something that I will certainly take back to customer service, and we've been relying on them heavily to help us through the signage piece. We've had folks out there that encompass them going and putting up signage, helping our folks with scripts so that we're more equipped to handle folks. So this is certainly a learning process for us, and it's something that we're building and improving on daily.
I would also suggest that you look at all the signs on the elevators.
Certainly.
My favorite elevator is the one, I'm in Washington Heights. I come down, so I come off the platform and I'm going to the 4-5 platform. Now that elevator has street, but it never tells you what level to get off.
Okay.
To go to the street.
Okay.
I've given the fold card to the wayfaring people who have absolutely no idea. You almost need to have like a 3D chessboard, and because it's just, coming from this to this to this, and it's very complicated. I'm not saying it's easy. You know, we're still all trying to learn it. But I have been so misdirected by the guys at Fulton
Okay.
that it's really pretty bad.
Okay.
Particularly when the cops are doing the screening with their table, they're blocking the double exit door. The table's right up against it. And it's a problem to get in and out. Even though there is another push gate on the other side,
Okay.
it causes a block up. If they could consider moving that a bit, maybe closer to the circle,
Okay.
because you actually get and the card reader often doesn't work, and I can then go to the line, and I show I have it, and I swipe my card, and it's not working. Could you please report it? I'm not arguing with anyone. Could you please just report this? And, it's like this major kerfuffle. And, it's rush hour. Just remember you have to tell them.
Certainly.
But amid other things, yeah. But, the main thing is they should have a pocket full of the fold cards.
Okay.
The accessible station fold cards. They don't.
Okay.
I've not met a single worker who has had the current card, which came out this past July.
Okay. Well, that's something we can easily fix. So I've got a lady with me, Miss Jessica over there, who's taken notes diligently.
Thank you.
And it's something we should be able to equip our
We
folks
should
with.
also get them to the guys running the trains.
Andrew?
Are the stations in bold, that's where their office is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. You have used 3 terms to define various people: wayfinders, ambassadors, and station agents. Are those interchangeable, or can you give a definition of the tasks of each one and how they relate to the GSMs and the DCSMs?
So we have wayfinders and station agents. We don't have ambassadors.
Oh, I heard ambassadors being used here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you
That's
have
the bus.
the ambassador program no longer exists. It did exist at one time.
So so
Yeah. Well, some people think of the MTA as a foreign
Staten
country.
Island Railroad has ambassadors. Long Island Railroad, I
Well,
think.
we used to have
yeah.
ambassadors in the subways. Okay, so now the other 2 terms.
So
can- if
same
you-
job function, but we have station agents and wayfinders. So the key difference in the two, they're the same, they're represented by the same union. The key difference is that that wayfinders are outside of the booth. They they don't handle any currency. They don't handle any type of transactions. They're just there for customer support. Folks inside of the booth are the ones handling transactions, and they are station agents.
But as far as the customer is concerned, they both serve basically the same if you have a problem, you can go to either one?
Either one of them.
Okay, and then what do they do? I go to either a station agent or a wayfinder. I have a problem. What do they then do after I go to them with my problem?
So it would depend on the severity of the problem. So they would immediately report it to the district as well as the RCC.
RCC, what's
Is our
that?
rail control center.
Oh, okay. But they are empowered to deal with problems without having to get approval from a higher up.
Depends on the problem. So, I mean, it depends on the severity of the problem. But if you went to a wayfinder, they would be able to help you, assist you, find a destination, help you find an elevator. They can help with if they need to make a phone call. If you went to them and said, there's an emergency, I need you to reach a manager, they have the ability to call a manager in the event of an emergency situation.
Okay, thank you.
What do the group station managers and the wayfinders and the station agents get to know the people on the trains, the conductors and the motormen, the motor people, rather. And how do they, if there's a delay on a train, a signal problem or something, do they have the ability, do the train personnel communicate with the general managers to say, are they getting all the alerts and how?
Generally, everything is handled through the RCC. So the folks on the trains don't have the ability to communicate with the managers directly. So they're calling in an incident to the RCC, and then the RCC is making calls to the managers, respective managers on duty, supervisors, wayfinders, that sort of thing.
And what if they're in a station and there's a sick passenger? Do they have the ability to, do they know that at, Fulton Street or Wall Street, who the group station manager is to
Yes.
alert them
Right away, yes.
So they do have contact with them?
Yes, throughout the day.
Mr. Rex, did you have your hand up?
I'm at the footage there. But you mentioned the current transit police chief. So my question is for you over here, him, and Andy Byford. Do you think it's possible, well, particularly the chief, have a discussion here about cops who are assigned to the transit districts who feel it's necessary to prey on riders like myself? Because years ago, within Transit Police Districts 3 and 11, they treated me like a stereotype, much like JJ from Good Times. Had the audacity to tell me I can't speak to the station agents. Had the audacity to say you have to leave board the train, leave the station. Within Transit Police District 3, one of them assaulted me, which I didn't appreciate.
Try to get the transit police chief here next.
Yeah.
Well, I seem to remember when James Hall, who looks like Alfalfa, was the transit police chief years ago. I mentioned this to him, and he gave me a smart-ass remark, which I didn't appreciate. He had the audacity to say they had a right to approach and treat me like a stereotype, much like JJ from Good Times. So I hope I'm not going to get the same response from this particular chief. That's what I'm hoping.
No, certainly not. No. I can't, and I would certainly hope that you don't receive that level of service from anybody within stations.
Hi, just again, building on Carol's questions with communication. So, do they have a direct relationship, the managers or the district, at the district level, directly with the Rail Control Center?
They do, yes.
Meaning, so is there somebody dedicated to the different boroughs, or is it one individual they're going through?
It's several, so we have a few folks that work at the Rail Control Center. The nice thing about the Rail Control Center is that these are experienced managers who have been out in the field. So they know the ins and outs of the stations, and there's usually a couple of them in there handling and taking calls. We also have a customer service side of that, and an emergency response desk that handles platform controllers as well as wayfinders. So they are all in a general area working with cubicles
So
there.
you're telling me then they can get real-time information
Right now.
through the 6-wire? You
Yes,
know what I'm talking about?
certainly.
Okay, great. I think we should test this.
Rochelle, Stuart raised an issue earlier about the hours of the GSMs. If a GSM for a particular station was 8 to 6 p.m., from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m., somebody equally familiar with the station would be on duty?
A group station superintendent. So we have round-the-clock 24-hour coverage. So if it's not a GSM, it's a group station superintendent that's available.
What does that mean? What's a superintendent opposed to a?
A GSM, yeah.
So typically, a group station manager has more managerial and leadership experience than a superintendent. So in transit, we have supervisors, then we have superintendents, and then we have group station managers.
With regard to the deep station cleaning, that phase of the maintenance, do you have a list, or is there, how can people find out where their station falls on it or where their line falls on it. On my neighborhood app, there have been people complaining about a station. I'd like to be able to direct them someplace.
Okay.
Rather than have all of the people go right to the station manager. And I think that's something that we'd be happy to put out.
Okay.
Or link to it, just to, if there is that maintenance, not emergency response, but something that's scheduled for that kind of level, that would be terrific
Okay.
for us to be able to share.
I think that's
GSM
something.
is not unfairly burdened with questions that someone else should.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think that's something we could certainly bridge the gap on and make transparent for folks.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome to New York,
Thank you.
city of 8 million critics. At a prior meeting, I asked President Byford about bathrooms on the platforms, or, stations. He talked about big renovation, long-range goals. I suggested that he just clip the locks on all the locked bathrooms that now exist and just keep them clean. We don't need them all renovated. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Any plans to improve or open up existing restrooms in the subway system?
That's a tough question. We did make a commitment to improve on 5 bathrooms, and so part of that was renovating those 5 bathrooms, and we focused on enhanced cleaning of those bathrooms. So we allocated additional resources to those 5. One of the other pilots that we're going to be rolling out here next month is vandal-proof paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers, and toilet paper dispensers, because as fast as we put that stuff on in the restrooms, it's getting tore off as fast as we're installing it. So it's been a real struggle and challenge for us to maintain the restrooms, but we are looking at options to do better. We're looking at different options to maintain them better, and we certainly have the focus on the 5 throughout the remaining.
Can
The
you
rest
let
of the
us
year.
know what those 5 are, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's-
Yes.
Okay, but, well, Edith, could she first
Okay.
tell us which these 5 bathrooms are?
So I'll get you.
Oh,
a list.
you couldn't tell us right now?
Bryant Park.
Bryant Park. You mean Fifth Avenue on the number 7 line?
42nd. Yeah.
42nd and Fifth. That's what I mean. That's the number 7.
Jackson Heights. We did 2 in Queens, 1 in Manhattan, I think 2 in the Bronx, 1 in Brooklyn. Yes.
That's more than 5. Okay. Thank you.
Just a suggestion on this. The Parks Department of New York City went through this many years ago and studied extensively bathroom fixtures that would be resistant to vandalism. So you may want to check out what they've been doing.
And we also reached out to some counterparts and other agencies, and so the pilot that we're going to run, this is products that they use in other transit agencies. So we're going to give it a shot. We're going to pilot it and see if it works in these 5 bathrooms. If it does, we're going to continue rolling that out in the remaining bathrooms.
Stuart, I remind you that one of the things the Parks Department experimented with was having the toilets automatically open after 15 minutes, whether you were ready for that or not.
I remember that.
Okay. Well, Rochelle, I want to thank you.
Yes.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Obviously,
Thank you.
this is really important. And you know GSM is also a cellular technology. You know that, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Any other business before we adjourn? Before adjournment or after?
Well, I think it could be before adjournment.
Okay.
In your report, you spoke about. Okay. Okay, in your report, Andrew, you spoke about the first of the vacuum trains arriving. So my question is, are they being rolled out to the entire length of lines? Where were they first run?
That I don't know. I can find out.
Okay, because I, you know.
We're getting a total of 3.
Right, and one's going to be on the Lexington.
Being floated across the ocean.
Okay, the second is, sort of recurrent, and that is they're running shuttles from 168th Street because of the work they're doing, and they're no, shuttles are stopping at 168 on the A train. Okay. Downtown, coming uptown, stopping we turn into Pumpkins. There are no shuttles being run to Fort Washington. There is no stop, although there is a 184th Street entry, exit. They are not, they're using as if they were using 183rd, which is the head-in parking. They're not using it now. There is no stop between 181st and Bennett, Nagel, Broadway, etc.
How frequently is this occurring?
It was again this week. I mean, but it's been recurring more and more.
The length of this A train, Gio, obviously.
I mean, we got on the train. This was also the same night. We got on the train. They make the announcement that the C was running to 125. They never told us at that point that the A was running to 168. So everyone gets to on the C.
The expectation was it was going all the way to 207.
Yes, yes. So your expectations, you're going to 207. Instead, you're going to 168. There were no BX 7s, 100s running up. Everything was running as shuttles. In the time I waited, there were 14. This was Monday night. So it was a wonderful night. Well, it was. I got home finally at 10, so I would say 9:30. And none of us were expecting to transfer at 160. In fact, people were rushing to get home before the trains were being screwed up. So it was like, except as you said, you know, they've made it an hour earlier.
No, they haven't. They've definitely started to Gio's early.
It's fine if they tell us.
Yeah, a lot of people think so.
Exactly. I mean, everyone got off the train at 168.
That's why.
And put their arms in the air.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.